I am Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And we're paranormal specialists who live in the most haunted city on earth, Savannah, Georgia. Every day is Halloween in our line of work, so join us as we spin true tales of haunts, murders, and disturbing Savannah history. I'm Madison.
I'm Chris.
And welcome to the most haunted city on earth. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Most Haunted City on Earth. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And I'm JT, the husband of Faye Daddy.
Yes, Faye Daddy is coming in. So today,
wait, are you Faye Daddy?
I am Faye Daddy. You haven't caught on?
Have you not caught on?
I wasn't paying attention. No, not at all.
I'm Faye Daddy.
I just thought it was just an overarching term.
I want a hat. I want
just Faye Daddy?
Yeah, I want wings and a hat that say Faye Daddy on it. That's
Done.
what I would like.
We're on it.
And my familiar is the squonk.
Squonk.
So...
Yes.
Poor Squonk.
She's looking at me like I need a Faye Daddy hat and I need a Squonk plush.
Yes.
At the very least, a Squonk t-shirt.
Yes, definitely a squonk.
Yes.
A squonk shirt.
Squonk shirt.
But yes, so today in Faye Daddy News, we are going to be doing an episode where I'm going to be reading to Chris and JT some news articles that have been associated with rumors of Fae-like activity, and we're going to decide whether or not we believe the Fae have a hand in them. So... that's going to be the Fae segment of today.
Alrighty.
But today's Fae News.
Yes.
Fae News. Oh, that's funny.
Fae News.
Like fake news, but Fae News?
Fae News.
Oh, God.
Or it could be Faily News.
Yes.
It's the Faily News.
The Faily News.
The Faily Update.
But before we get into today's Fae News, we are going to happily thank our sponsors. So we want to thank Cosmic Corner, which is a local metaphysical shop here in Savannah. They have all your metaphysical goods that you could possibly need, from everything for your witchy practices to your altar goods to books. There's ghost hunty sort of stuff. They don't have equipment, but they do have lots of reading material if you want to learn about different entities, or you want to learn on how to better utilize your time when you're investigating. So they have a lot of resources on that.
And if they don't live here, they can buy online, right?
Yep, you can buy online at shopcosmiccorner.com. It is fantastic, so definitely support them. But also, we want to thank our other sponsor, which is Savannah Repertory Theater, which is our local professional theater here in Savannah. They are an equity theater, and they are going to be doing their first production of the fall season, which is Empanada Loca.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like Sweeney Todd, but Hispanic and really fun. It's based on a TV show, I want to say, or mixed around.
Yeah,
I think it came before.
TV show might have come before the play, or
no, the play came before the TV show.
That's it. And then there's a podcast as well. But yes, it's about a woman named Dolores Roach who lives in the an abandoned subway station, and she basically has some misdoings that she has done in a very Sweeney Todd manner, so you won't want to miss it.
If you're in the Savannah area, the Savannah Repertory Theater puts on outstanding productions.
It's going to be fantastic.
And so it's going to be fantastic, and it's in their new location, which is right there on the corner of Habersham and Broughton Street.
Yes.
Yep.
And tickets are currently on sale, so you can buy those on their website. The show is going to be September 7th through the 10th, and then again on the 14th through the 17th. So if you're going to be in the area during those weekends, definitely come out. All three of us are going to be there on various nights, so definitely come join us. It's going to be a really good time. But
cool.
With that, let's get into our Fae News.
Fae News.
All right. So... some of these stories are not from 2023. I think the oldest story that we have comes from like 2014. And then there's one that's more folklore news. So do you want to start with 2014 or do you want to start with more current events?
Let's start with
oldest
right?
new.
Okay. So let's talk about a man named Shaun Ritchie. So this is going to be the mysterious disappearance of Shaun Ritchie.
Da-da-da.
Da-da-da-da. And mind you, he disappeared on Halloween night.
Ooh.
So, on Friday, October 31st in 2014, into Saturday, November 1st, 2014, Shaun Ritchie traveled in a van with a small group of friends on the A981 to a remote farmhouse in the Greenburn area near Striken in Scotland. He vanished without a trace from the woodland near the Kersey Hill farm. This is all Scottish stuff, so excuse me when it starts to get really into the middle of the Highlands. It gets weird. But Shaun had been at home that day in Fraserburgh with his family before visiting a convenience store and left with friends to celebrate Halloween. Later that day, on November 1st, 2 emergency calls were made to police from the Greenburn area, one requesting help and the second canceling the requested help. Who exactly these calls came from is unclear. It was one of the largest coordinated missing persons investigations in Scottish history.
Wow.
After this huge search, only his shoes, hooded top, and belt were found.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
But Shaun has not been seen since. Medical experts believed he may have become disoriented in freezing conditions and stumbled into a bog. Fae-like territory.
Oh, God.
But no remains have been recovered. After years of searching, what happened to Shaun? Murder? Hypothermia? Accidental drug overdose? Something more sinister? A Halloween mystery from Scotland. Extensive and detailed searches were conducted with assistance from every specialist air, land, and water resource, with more than 200 officers covering more than 15 miles of ditches, rough terrain, and large water areas. Police also used forensic soil scientists and geoscientists. The searches were conducted with the help of the Grampian Mountain Rescue Team and the Aberdeen, Tayside, and RAF Kinloss Mountain Rescue Teams, a dive and marine unit, a dog unit, and Police Scotland air support.
There you have it, folks.
A patch of
Quite a search.
That is quite the search. A patch of neighboring woodland to Kersey Hill farmhouse comprised of rowan, ash, and spruce trees, which are also very associated with the Fae as well, because those are all very spiritual trees, was heavily searched during the initial investigation. At the time of his disappearance, Shaun was wearing gray jeans, a white t-shirt, and a gray hooded top. The family enlisted the help of Glasgow Group Canine Search and Rescue and its human remains detection dog in 2015, but the Springer Spaniel failed to pick up a scent.
Oh, see that dogs? I mean, that's
especially cadaver dogs.
Right.
They're the best at what they do.
Exactly.
And so if they can't find something,
it's not there.
Yeah.
It's true. And so, discovery of clothing and boots. 5 days after Shaun was last seen on Thursday, November 6th, specialist search teams recovered items of his clothing from the area near Greenburn. These items were found in a bog. Shoes, hooded top, and belt. Nothing else.
Huh.
Then the mother was arrested. So in August of 2016, Shaun's mother, Carol Ann, 38,
Mom was arrested?
Yeah. Was charged with wasting police time.
Oh, that's terrible.
Right?
On top of losing her son?
Yes.
Goodness gracious.
She believes her son was harmed. She even called in a psychic to visit the search site who now supports her theory.
Oh, my God.
It's believed the charges relate to anonymous text messages she sent to Shaun's close friends and family suggesting that Shaun had been murdered. Charlie Reed, Shaun's father, was working in Saudi Arabia when news of Shaun's disappearance broke. Said on the bad day since his son vanished, it's hard to function. Charlie was critical of the investigation by Police Scotland and has stated his belief that Ritchie was killed over a debt.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Really?
But why would his body not be found, though?
I mean, well, honey, they could have they could have buried it or
but the dogs
burned
couldn't
it.
pick up a scent or anything.
I don't. Yeah.
Well, if
I
they
don't know.
moved his body far, if it's not there.
But the
they're not gonna
dragging
find
scent, even if they had to drag it,
You
or
can
something.
drive across Scotland in 3 hours.
It's true.
So you can literally,
Put it
you
on
can
a
be in
boat.
Inverness, murder somebody, and then bury the body in Edinburgh by the afternoon.
We're not saying you should do that.
Right.
This is not an outline for getting
But
away
we're
with murder
weighing
in Scotland.
We're weighing out the possibilities of, is this a Fae type kidnapping or not? So
Yeah.
So, review into investigation. A review by the major investigation team in Glasgow of the work of Police Scotland was done, which included a review of forensic work and search activity carried out as part of the investigation. Detective Chief Inspector, Finola. It is quite a name. Finola McPhail. We'll call him Detective McPhail, who oversees...
Just sounds like you're making fun of him. Hey, Detective McPhail. How's your latest McFailure?
So he oversees the inquiry and said, we fully appreciate how hard it must be for Shaun's family with another year passing since his disappearance, and my thoughts are with them at this difficult time. Our inquiry into Shaun's disappearance remains one of the largest ever missing persons operations in the history of Police Scotland. Chief Inspector Stuart Drummond said, to date, these reviews have all concluded that this remains a missing person inquiry and there is no evidence to suggest that Shaun has been the victim of any crime. We will, however, continue to keep an open mind, and I can provide every assurance that we will act on any new information provided to us. Friday, October 31st, 2014, last seen by his mother on Friday evening at home in Watermill Road in Fraserburgh. The same day, CCTV images are captured of Ritchie visiting a convenience store in Fraserburgh. Friday, October 31st into Saturday, November 1st, Shaun traveled with friends to a farm in the Greenburn area near Stricken. Sunday, November 2nd, Mr. Ritchie is reported missing at 8:45 p.m. on Sunday evening. On Thursday, November 6th, police officers recover several items of his clothing, including his shoes and his belt from the Greenburn area. The aftermath, the farmhouse near where Shaun Ritchie was lost was put up for sale for £350,000 in May 2015. What happened to Shaun Ritchie? In questions. What happened to Shaun after leaving Fraserburgh in the van and headed to the party? How did he end up in the woodland near the Kersey Hill farmhouse? What happened during the Halloween party? Why did the search only turn up his shoes, belt, and hooded top? Where were his remains? And what role did his friends play in the disappearance? And that's the end of that article.
I feel like we didn't hear enough about the friends. I mean, he
Right?
was with friends and then he disappeared. What is their story? What do they have to say about it?
Maybe they were put in a trance by the Fae.
Boom.
To cover their tracks. I'm not convinced it's not the Fae.
Yeah.
The curiosity of shoes, belt, and hoodie brings about like all kinds of bizarre notions. I mean, if you went with Fae, just, classic turned you into a newt kind of situation, It's like, boing.
It's true.
Oh, man. So here's the thing that a lot of people don't know about Scotland. There are no dangerous animals in Scotland.
It's true.
Zero. Right. There are zero. You do. Okay, wait, hold on. There is a snake. I think it's the UK asp or something. I don't know. But it's nothing like crazy.
No.
It's not like a diamondback or anything.
Right.
All right. So, it's a European adder, I think.
Right. Adder.
And so, but there are no wolves. There are no bears. There are no man-eaters in Scotland. You can go through those woods, and as scary as they are, you're not going to get attacked by something fierce other than a human or Fae, according to Fae Daddy.
So here's the thing. I have also been to the Scottish Highlands. I have also been in those woods. It is incredibly easy to fall into a Fae trap if you wanted to. If you were in the middle of the woods and it was dark enough and there was a Fae trap, you could step right into it.
What does a Fae trap look like?
It depends on which Fae you're dealing with. So a lot of times they're naturally occurring archways. So like if you see trees that are naturally occurring into this arch, or you'll see an arch that's off the path. A lot of times it's
I've seen that. We saw one in Hawaii.
We did. We saw a very perfect Fae trap, essentially. And then also a lot of times it's mushroom rings, which again,
Classic
if it's
mushroom
really, really dark, which it does get very dark, because that happened in the Glencoe sort of region. It gets really freaking dark out there. And so if you're just walking in the woods and you're a little drunk or you're a little high or whatever you're doing, and you could step right into a mushroom ring, and there you go. You've been snagged by the Fey bear trap. So
the Fey bear trap.
That basically is what it is.
Oh my god.
More or less.
Yeah.
And there are even more insidious ones because ash trees. If you lean against an ash tree, you can slip right into Tirnanog. You know, it's a
which he was.
It's
slip
basically
right into what?
Tirnanog, well, another plane of existence. Yeah. The concept being that, that the Fae live in another plane and they travel to and fro. So a Fae trap basically puts you in the other plane. So you step into it and you're in another plane. Now, the interesting thing is sometimes it's as simple as an unattended portal. It's not necessarily a trap. It's like because Fae will use tethers to other planes, and ash tree is one of them. And if you touch it while it's active, you're gone. That's just it. And if you have unnatural fibers stay behind. Only natural fibers can travel through. So if his shoes were made of like polyester, if his belt was unnatural, if the hoodie was unnatural, all those things would stay. And he, in his cotton shirt and jeans, would have gone over. It's so, I mean, that's not to say that's what happened. It's just an interesting thing because you start to think, well, what kind of hoodie was it? You know, was it a heavy polyester, thing? Because the concept of unnatural things not being able to traverse to the other plane is a story. There's a lot of things that people believe cannot, pass, or synthetic materials can't go into the fairy world and are left behind.
So, and there were ash trees along with rowan trees, which are also very, very prominent
very much so.
In folklore and things like that, surrounding the bog where his clothing was found. So, interesting.
I mean, I do not subscribe to that's what happened to him. I'm almost positive that something terrible happened to him that involved his friends, because he was with a group of friends. And if the group of friends do not have an answer to the separation, and the fact that we're missing that, the fact that it's like, authorities questioned the friends, and the friends gave us this detailed account of, when he separated from them, that just sounds like, maybe he got alcohol poisoning and they're like freaking out and they put him in the back of the van and drove to the other side of Scotland and threw him off a cliff. For sure. However you wanted to what was his name make again?
That. His name was Shaun Ritchie.
A-U-N? A-U-N?
A-U-N.
Okay, Shaun Ritchie. I'm going to pull up a photo for the live stream. But anyway, you keep going.
So, into the next story. This one happened pretty recently in February of 2023.
Oh, very recently.
Yes. The strange disappearance of the YouTube survivalist Finn Creaney. I'm going to go with Creaney. In the Scottish Highlands.
Scotland's a dangerous place to go walking around.
Yeah. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, because you can literally go everywhere. There's a right to roam law. So it's literally, if you pull off and you see somewhere pretty, you can do that. But also the Fae are really good at making things look really inviting so that you come into them.
Madison and I roamed a lot.
We did.
All we did was roam because it's just an incredible freaking place. And if you've listened to any episode on this podcast, we usually talk about Scotland. It's awesome.
It's true.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. It is really actually pretty safe. Also, here is a photo of our boy Shaun. That's him. That's him.
So, 32-year-old Finn Creaney from the Tain area set out at around 2:15 p.m. on Friday, March 25th, 2022, for a hike. He was dropped off by Loch Naver.
Okay.
On the B873 public road in Sutherland in Scotland to start his planned walking route around the loch and south to Gillespie. His route took him around the area around Altanahara and Gillespie. Finn was a keen outdoorsman and survivalist who started a YouTube channel under the name Wildcat Bushcraft in January of 2021 to showcase his survival skills in the Scottish Highlands, as well as the beautiful scenery of the area. Several of his videos highlighted his ability to build emergency shelters and survive in sub-zero temperatures.
Okay.
Despite his survivalist experience, March 25th, 2022 was the last day Finn was seen. Despite a large search operation 10 months he remains missing with no clues at all found about his fate. Did he become lost? Did he fall into a bog? Or despite all evidence, has he disappeared to start a new life? His wife, Lucy, said in February of 2023, "When my 5-year-old daughter cries at night for her father, I repeat what I have told her for almost a year. Daddy has gone on one of his adventures. I don't know what's happening, but I'm doing everything I can to get the answers. I love you, I love Daddy, and I miss him. Every time the phone rings, my heart leaps when the thought, it's him. With the thought, it's him." Lucy believes she will still find Finn because people don't just vanish off the face of the earth. It's a weird thing, though.
According to Faye Daddy, they do. Apparently, it's worth mentioning that if something falls into a bog, it is very difficult
to get out of the bog,
recover, and or even know it's there. Bogs are notorious for keeping their secrets, and very possibly even to the point of confounding a cadaver dog. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
I only know that this is 2 stories in a row where the bog angle came up, and I know that bogs, which are basically swamps, because I want to say when I was growing up, there was the famous Bog Man, where they actually found a very perfectly preserved body, and it turned out to be thousands of years old. That it had fallen in the bog, and because the bog is full of like peat moss and all kinds of chemicals, that very well preserved this body. But when you think about it, that means that people were just walking by it, being in the bog, being around the bog, and there was a body, and it wasn't that far from anything. It was just like one of those things where like, oh, you know what? The bog can hold on to its secrets. It can hide things. This just sounds like one of those terrible stories of hubris. It vaguely reminds me of Grizzly Man.
A little bit.
The idea of going out against nature and having this concept of your comprehension of nature being so infallible that you could survive anything, and then realizing nature's got a lot of cards up her sleeve. There's a lot of things that can take you by surprise. There's a lot of things that can, so the idea of constantly pushing yourself to survive extreme circumstances, that's a losing bet ultimately. Yeah. Because there's always going to be something that you didn't account for, you didn't know about, or that was more difficult than you thought, or, because something as simple as like spraining your ankle can lead to death in the deep depths of nature. So it's bizarre again that with all the concerted effort to find him, there's no evidence of remains. There's no, that's the thing that keeps coming back is where are the remains? Because a survivalist would have sought to create some kind of,
I was going to say that.
Camp or some kind of thing that would have at least given you an indication that he was there.
Yes.
So I don't know, and maybe if we knew better what his last attempted survival thing was, what was he going out to?
I think he was just going out for a hike.
Yeah, see, that's so bizarre.
That is super bizarre,
especially like a survivalist who knows terrain and knows how to survive and how to live, to go missing on a hike.
Right.
I mean, that's irony, is what that is.
Yeah.
That's deep irony that he goes on a hike and then rolls into a bog. It's like, nope.
So
I didn't think about this.
The story has some similarities to the missing YouTuber Kenny Veach, who vanished without a trace in the Sheep Mountains near Las Vegas after trying to find the mysterious M Cave in November 2014. which is a whole different thing. And the reason why we aren't doing that is because that is more aligned with the belief that national park type cryptids took that man, but which Fae and
cryptids very closely related, and actually when you start to break down like every culture's versions of these tricksters or otherworld beings, they actually have a lot in common. They actually live in, because like in the case of Las Vegas, you're looking at the indigenous people's belief, and they had the first, second, third world interchangeable. So like the first peoples can travel to the third people, which is us, and drag them down to the second or first plane. So, and it sounds very similar because they have the same kind of traps. Certain caves will lead you straight to like the first world, which is world of darkness and the primordial origins place. So yeah, when we talk of Fae, we are putting a pretty big Celtic lens on it all because I would dare say that thanks to the Irish, we have probably one of the most well-developed like histories of this civilization, these worlds. But when you go to the other cultures, they have very similar things. The Oni of Japan. Oh yeah. They are otherworld beings that can torment and torture and show up and drag off to, I think China has multiple hells that you can get entrapped in and enshrined in. So when you start, because we're talking about missing people, the concept of accidentally walking into an area that is rife with that kind of paranormal activity, we are dealing with the definitions that people come up with. Right. We still, like, every time we go on the Fae discussion, it's important to know that we're using words and definitions that are furnished to us. Yeah. It's not a comprehension of what actually is happening. It is a resource that we have. It's like, somebody set this down, and that gives us words. Like when we use the word demon, we're not necessarily talking about the Christian construct of demon. We just know that the definition of the word fits the elements of the story that we're telling. It's true. So it's interesting if we ever get into like the indigenous peoples regions or cryptids or things like that, because there are people who believe that Bigfoot is an interdimensional traveler. That's why we can't find him, is because he actually appears through a portal from his own world and then disappears, just as easily, and only spends a very small fraction of his time or their time in our, perception. Sure.
And then also, I just wanted to show, we have some people in the UK that listen and watch and whatnot, a good bit actually. And so this is Finn. If you're watching on YouTube, and you can also Google Finn Creaney, Scotland missing, and you can get all of these. You get all these photos if you're, just to keep an eye out.
Absolutely. He might be disoriented, lost. He might have started a new life. He might be working at that coffee shop down the street. So,
you never know. But yeah, a lot of these are set in Scotland because I think
it's fascinating,
which is really weird. But I will say, if we have enough time, we'll talk about it. But it might have to wait for its own episode. But it's called the Vanishing Triangle in Ireland. Oh yeah, which is basically just like where people just disappear without a trace.
There's a Vanishing Triangle in Massachusetts.
That's creepy. Yeah. That's very creepy. But to give you some understanding, Chris, we hadn't gotten to it in the article okay. Of why he was out there.
Oh, good.
So he was on a YouTube adventure. So the weather was unseasonably hot that weekend in March of 2022. Finn planned to go on one of his solo adventures in the wilderness, something he had done many times. An experienced and competent survivalist, he was completely at home in nature. His intended destination was the Loch Naver area, about an hour's drive from his home in the countryside outside of Tain in the Scottish Highlands. He said goodbye to his wife Lucy and 4-year-old daughter Luna that Friday morning, and Finn drove to Golspie Beach car park around 17 miles away. He left his car there with the aim of collecting it at the end of his hike, and a family member then dropped him off at the B873 road at 2:15 p.m. at a caravan park, and this was the last definite sighting of Finn. He left Lucy a voicemail at 12:52 p.m. I think they might have meant AM. On Friday, March 25th. Hey, honey, I love you lots. I'm really proud of you. As she was launching a business as a florist, and he promised to be home by midday on Sunday to deliver the Mother's Day flowers for her customers that they had ordered. According to his wife, Finn always kept his promises, and he never arrived home late. Finn's phone cut off at 1:47 p.m. in the village of Lairg, and no messages were sent after this. The cell phone had either been switched off, broken, or had run out of battery. Lucy said she could see the messages she had sent him later that afternoon and evening hadn't been read, and she thought that was strange, as she knew Finn would be using his phone to film his adventure for YouTube and for navigation. She didn't think too much of it at the time, as she thought he would be okay. He always was, but he wasn't. The search.
Goodness gracious.
On Sunday evening, Lucy started panicking that Finn hadn't shown up by midday, and although this was inconvenient, she assumed his hike had simply taken longer than expected. By 6:30 p.m., however, she was really starting to worry. She assumed perhaps his phone had died and he couldn't get in touch. On Monday morning, Lucy rang the school from Finn, where Finn worked, teaching bushcraft to children.
Oh, God.
Finn Creaney's wife, and this, or I'm Finn Creaney's wife, and this is going to sound weird, but is Finn there? They told her he wasn't, then went and checked the whole school. Called back and confirmed he definitely wasn't there. She then rang the police to report Finn missing. Lucy said, even then, I still felt ridiculous. I was sure I was overreacting, all but certain that police would meet him on his walk and he would laugh. Are you for real? He's like a cat. He always lands on his feet and always comes home. But I also couldn't help thinking, what if something had happened? Had he had an accident? What else could have gone wrong? Looking back, I think I probably went into a state of shock, unable to make sense of his absence. Finn was described as 5'11", slim build with a light complexion and freckles on his arms and nose. He has long brown hair down to his lower back and a full brown beard that is short in length. He was last seen wearing a black t-shirt, a knee-length brown leather jacket, dark-colored trousers, brown waterproof boots, and he was carrying a green rucksack. He was planning to film a YouTube video, so it was presumed he was carrying a camera or several cameras.
Wow.
Police searched the area between Altanahara and Golspie in Sutherland with the support of the Air Support Unit, as well as a number of partner agencies, including Mountain Rescue and Coast Guard. The search lasted 3 to 4 weeks, but no signs of Finn turned up. There is no evidence that Finn would ever choose to go missing intentionally, and there was no signs of a mental health crisis. The business he had launched was starting to take off, and he had a strong relationship with his family, having been together with his wife for 9 years and gotten married in 2021. The family did everything possible to find Finn after the official search finished, including ground searching on many occasions, poster campaigns, social media appeals, online searching, and research. But there was no genuine sightings, apart from some bikers who believed they saw Finn at about 3:45 p.m., roughly 3 miles down the road from where he was dropped off. And they said he seemed cheerful. Others have come forward and reported sightings, none of which have matched. So
the bikers saw him 3 miles down the road?
Right after he got dropped off at the start point. So it really...
And he was cheerful,
yeah.
so it wasn't
nothing was wrong at that point yet.
Makes me wonder if his equipment seemed expensive. Like if he had an expensive equipment, like if somebody came upon him and decided a crime of opportunity, you know,
interesting.
Because it's terrible. And being so fresh, you know, he's within the realm of imagination, a survivor, you know, because there's no body, there's no, you know, it's like, that's so terrifying, you know, to have so many unanswered questions. It's definitely one of those things where people get into that frame of mind where it's like, if I just knew, you know, because it seems implausible.
It's true
that he would just befall He was teaching bushcraft to children, so
he clearly knows what he's doing.
Right, he knows what he's doing.
That he would get lost seems preposterous. The idea that he would run afoul of something that he couldn't handle seems out of order.
I do know that most likely he didn't have much to defend himself with, because they're really, really strict in Scotland with carrying knives. You obviously can't have a gun.
Sure.
But I think
so he couldn't defend himself very well unless he had like a club on him or something like that. But even then,
you can't carry like a pocket knife for like bushcraft.
You can carry. I feel like I remember looking, because I have a pocket knife and I carry it everywhere. So I remember like looking into the laws, and you can carry smaller the knife, actually, the more illegal it is. And I don't know. There's a lot of people listening to this, and they're probably like, "You're an idiot." But like, I believe it's like the smaller the knife, or just like all knives. And then if you're a chef, you can have your knives on you. That
makes sense. Yeah.
If you're a chef, you can have your knives on you. And there has to be a reason for you to have this type of thing on you.
Sure.
So I guess that would be a reason.
But him being a very experienced and like expert bushcraftman, he would have known those. Yeah, he would have known those laws.
Here's the thing. Where this happened is up near Inverness. I mentioned that earlier in the episode. We've been to Inverness. We know it was so. Scotland in general is just unbelievably safe. I mean, it's unbelievably safe. I would have like equipment out, and I didn't feel like here in America, where it's like you got to watch over your back. I didn't watch over my back very much, because I didn't feel the need to, because it's just so freaking safe there.
Yeah, people are just pleasant and kind of mind their own business.
Two entirely missing people in a 6-year period of time.
There's another one too.
Raise questions.
There's another one? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let's go to the third. Next one. Although I can't rule out foul play in this notion, nor could I conceivably rule out serial killer.
Oh.
Interesting.
To encompass the two stories we heard. Because of the nature of just vanishing entirely, just totally makes me think there had to be something that triggers the absolute disappearance of traces.
Okay, or it's just Faye.
Or the Fae. Or the Fae.
But so this last one is the strange and unexplained death of Nicholas Randall in the Scottish Highlands.
Okay.
So Nicholas Randall disappeared April 25th, 2005 in Edinburgh, and then his body was found in 2008 in Oak Forest near Bridge of Orkney, Argyll, Scotland.
Okay.
Suffering from depression, 30-year-old Nick Randall decided to drive off from his family home in Edinburgh in April 25th, 2005, and headed for the Scottish Highlands to avoid being a burden on his parents. He was never seen alive again. Nick vanished in 2005 after buying a sleeping bag in a store in Edinburgh and withdrawing £500 from an ATM. And the last confirmed sighting was at the Tiso Outdoor Shop on Rose Street. And after that, he seemed to vanish. For 2.5 months, nothing was heard until his silver Audi A2 was found in the Glen Nevis Waterfall car park near Lochaber. Police believed he was living in the wild hills in the area, especially as he was an experienced climber and hiker, having bagged many of the Scottish mountains called Munros. In the following months, there seemed to be some sporadic sightings, including some walkers at the Glen Tilt in Perthshire and Blair Castle Caravan Park, where a man matching Nicholas's description had asked to pitch his tent, but after that, nothing. His body was finally found in 2008 by forestry workers in the Oak Forest near Bridge of Orkney, Argyll, in a pitched tent. The location was around 47 miles from where the car was located. The case was quickly closed by Strathclyde police, who suspected no foul play, but the revelations of an ex-cop, Kenny McKinney, 47, changed all of that when he accused former colleagues of a cover-up to save money.
Whoa.
Now, I don't know why people are calling this Faye related, because so far I just like...
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is like on the list of people that are like Fae capturings, and I'm just like, this sounds like true crime. But maybe the Fae poke a hole in there every once in a while. The first two sound way more Fae-tastic, if you will.
Fae-tastic. Okay.
Yeah. So when Randall's tent was discovered, 2 sleeping bags, a holdall, different sized boots, and 2 sets of clothes and rucksacks, as well as a used condom, were found. Also, what was said to be a shallow grave was found in the vicinity of the tent by an off-duty police officer sometime before the discovery of the tent. So the questions that were relating to the Randall case. Police investigators assumed that Nick had succumbed to the elements and died in his tent from hypothermia. His mental health issues would have lessened his chances of survival in the cold Scottish winter. But the evidence is puzzling. The shallow grave, the sets of clothes. Nick had been living with, and had Nick been living with an unknown individual in the hills? Was he murdered? So that's all they had for him. That doesn't sound like Faye to me.
No,
that that's not really the Faye's like.
No. MO.
Yeah.
Although there's a lot of classic Faye stories in which a person disappears and then reappears.
Right.
However, usually they're very old when they reappear, and it's only been a short period of time. But the concept of disappearing and reappearing is not uncommon. My question is, was he in the shallow grave?
No,
or was it the partner?
So nobody was in the shallow grave.
Oh,
it had just been dug by the tent, which sounds more like somebody was trying to kill him in his sleep or something and then throw him in the... But maybe got caught.
Maybe. Well, I mean, it sounded like he found someone and they were living together in the woods.
Right.
And, however things go wrong in those types of relationships, unless they want to suggest that that person was a fae, some incubi or succubi, that was living out some,
sure. I mean,
pseudo relationship in the woods with a human, and then one day it's like, well, I'm done with you. Boom, boom, boom.
So that's the thing is like, with this last one, you could stretch it, I guess.
Yeah, it takes work. It takes work.
In a way, but, in just my opinion, I wouldn't call that Fae behavior. The first one is pretty compelling with the belt and the shoes
and the hoodie. I mean, it's just weird, when it comes down to it. And these are obviously tragic cases, and that the speculation on them, coming back and forth, to wheel around a Fae, hypothesis, is more about how baffling it is.
Exactly.
Because those are baffling instances. This does sound like a pretty cut and dry case of a person who fled from their lives, was living in the woods, obviously met someone, and then probably ran afoul of whoever they met.
Exactly. And so, 2 out of 3, I would say, are maybe Fae. Not enough evidence to clearly say. I would give number 1 the most thumbs
that
up.
mysterious shoes, belt, and hoodie raises all kinds of questions. It's like, did he go in? Did he go for a swim in the bog? Don't do that, by the way.
Don't swim in the bog. Do not swim in the bog. But I guess as the finishing point, if you're going to be in the Scottish Highlands, keep your wits about you, because apparently,
and maybe don't be alone.
Yeah, well, that's always a good rule of thumb for being in the
in the wild anywhere.
Yeah.
Don't go alone.
Don't go alone.
And that's a sad statement of modern life. It's hard to be alone in the wilderness because there are so many factors, and those factors are oftentimes other people.
It's true.
And just the act of having someone else with you diminishes your chances, but it doesn't make you safe. There's plenty of horror stories of couples or multiple people running afoul of somebody.
But also don't swim in the bogs and don't walk in Fae portals.
Yeah, and if you can help it, stay away from the Fae traps.
Yeah, so, but with that though, y'all, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you want us to talk about any more type of Fae type of activity, or if you have any particular Fae entities you would like us to do a deep dive into, let us know. But other than that, my name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And stay spooky, y'all.